Everyone, this is update for November 28, 2023, day 643 of the war, end of the date update. Also catch up for November 27 and 26. I'm going to start with general strategic update, and I'm going to switch to the situation on the front line as usually. So first, I'm going to start with Russia, with energy situation there, or income from energy export. I mentioned this before. Russia facing a problem exporting crude oil to India because India simply doesn't want to pay. Effectively, they give rupees, Indian rupees, and they are useless for Russians. So Russia got stuck with like $30 billion there. And so what this forces finally Russia to actually stop sending crude oil to India. It's not completely shut off, but it's going down, and probably it will go down to the level where at which Russia can import from India, and it does not import much, so the amount will go significantly lower. So basically, ability to sort of subsidize Indian economy has been exhausted for Russia. It remains to be seen if it will be able to find other sort of sources where it can sell its crude. The problem is that the West is going into slowly but surely in recession, potential depression. We'll find out, and that really reducing demand for crude oil just naturally because the economic activity is going down, especially in Europe. You probably see this now, all of the on the news headlines and so on. This is becoming challenging. One of the outlets for Russia is actually Brazil, that usually is buying Russian diesel fuel. So we'll see what happens there. There's another setback for Russia on the energy export front. China essentially doesn't want a Russian natural gas. Russia has one pipeline. It's called, I think, Power of Siberia. With China, I think it's like less than 30 billion cubic meters throughput annual. And it wanted to expand it, obviously, because it cannot export much to Europe anymore. But China effectively taking advantage of Russia and saying, okay, well, you're gonna pay for this whole pipeline. We're not gonna pay, a single cent for it, and or whatever Chinese currency is. And so it makes it extremely uneconomical for Russia. And then also demanding, I think after 15 years, you just basically give us that pipeline. We're essentially going to be owners of that pipeline. And then they also demanding reduction in natural gas prices. And I mentioned that the prices in China are much lower than in Europe. I think Russia is getting about like, let's say if I think, for reference, the prices in Europe roughly 500 US dollars for 1,000 cubic meters. In China, Russia would be getting 300, and now China wants even less, 270. So makes it extremely uneconomical for Russia. And effectively, what I said before, Gazprom, Russian state-run natural gas monopoly, is heading towards bankruptcy. For now, it's bankruptcy in terms of accrual terms, but eventually it will hit sort of cash bankruptcy. We'll see, don't know when, but it's firmly on that path. Let's put this way. So this will put some pressure on Russia. There is also prices for crude went down. That's also making it more challenging for Russia. I mentioned before that in September, Russia had, and actually October, Russia had very high revenues from crude oil export, and now this is going to go down somewhat. It doesn't mean that Russia is going to sort of collapse or things going to change. It's just going to be more challenging. It's going to be more challenging for Russian population because it will bear all of this cost, and majority of Russian population is okay with that. So it just I'm just describing general situation. In terms of what's going on in Ukraine, this internal fight continues and intensifies. So this is that talking head for Ukraine president. Her last name is Bezugla. So she already openly came out and called for resignation of the head of Ukrainian army, Zaluzhny. So at this point, and then she obviously accuses Zaluzhny of having no strategy, which, to be fair, is actually fair criticism. The problem is that she's not trying to do that because she has strategy or she wants to replace with something positive. This is basically destructive attack because Ukrainian president believes that head of Ukrainian army is becoming sort of political opponent of him, and so basically it's a kind of like a test of Ukrainian society by Ukrainian president if it will accept firing of the head of Ukrainian army. So far, response was extremely negative, and I guess Ukrainian president got a signal that society is still very supportive of the army in general and continuation of the war. At the same time, there is definitely changes within Ukrainian society where fewer and fewer people want to go to fight at the front line. I mentioned about this; it's becoming challenging. The quality of the new replacement is going down. To be fair, there is a reason for that because people see rampant corruption, no opportunities, and many people don't understand why they need to fight for that. Why would you die for that? And that's very fair. So, but but the point of all of this, that as the problems continue mounting for Ukraine, this internal fight will sort of continue and will grow. At some point, it will create existential problems. And that's what I mentioned about 1917 moment, and Ukraine is firmly on the path to it. In terms of the front line strategically, at this point, it's very clear Ukraine command decided to switch to the defensive, to basically holding the ground, and it's very how to say a bad idea because it's really what this really implies is rigid defense. It's effectively soldiers in the trenches are going to be basically subjected to Russian artillery shelling, and they essentially being targets and no ability to sort of respond properly. So this means rigid defense, and eventually this war of attrition will lead to the situation where there won't be enough sort of soldiers, there won't be enough replacements, and the front line will start to collapse, just like house of cards. And that's not immediate. This is long-term perspective where Ukraine heading at this point. The problem with all of this is that there is some kind of delusional thinking that Russia will stop where what it acquired or captured. It will not. It will continue all the way to the Polish border. So this is this collapse once it happens, it's not going to be slow motion. It's going to be very disorderly and exponential, where basically Russian army will move forward like a flood through Ukraine, and that's where it's all heading in the long term, as I said. Just to give, actually, this talking head person, she actually mentioned in her speech or her writing that Ukrainian army needs about 20,000 people replacement every month. Uh, so this effectively implies that the total losses from all reasons is plus minus 20,000 people, or maybe a little bit slightly less, which roughly converts to the total losses through the war. This is just another sort of way to triangulate on the losses, Ukrainian losses and Russian losses in this war, because all of their sort of data is hidden and so on. So this implies that the total losses from all sources for Ukraine is about 400,000 people. That doesn't mean dead. This means wounded, for again prisoners of war, for all sorts of reasons, and probably at minimum 100,000 dead, and more likely about 140, 150,000, could be 160,000 dead. Russian losses are pretty much plus minus similar. They're not much different, within plus minus 5-10% of Ukraine on either side. Not sure, obviously it's all attempt to assess the losses. So all of the stories about 400,000 dead Ukrainians or 500,000 or whatever, they are totally this is just some political exaggeration and attempts to basically push some political narrative. They don't have any ground in reality. Now, in terms of general situation, the front line is essentially in a stalemate, and it continues, with exception obviously of Avdiivka, where Russian command is continuing pushing, and but so far without much success. So I'm going to start walk through the front line in a clockwise fashion, as I always do. Situation along the state border remains stable. No immediate threats of Russian attack or offensive. Now let's move to the North Luhansk front line. Things here also some fairly quiet, some weak Russian tactical attack against this little village Terny, but again, nothing major. Some pressure a little bit here northeast of Kupiansk, but it's all sort of the same tactical pressure. Now let's move to the North Donbass front line. Northern sector is quiet, as it usually is. Then let's just look at the southern one. Situation more or less the same. The main focus of Russian side is recapturing lost ground. There is some weak attacks north of Bakhmut, and then also this is sort of new development. Russian attempt to move from this salient here around Pivnichne. Again, everything at the tactical level, nothing truly major. Now let's move to the central Donbass front line. Things here also very similar. Russian pressure around Avdiivka from north and south. In some ways, Russian troops right now are sort of regrouping or digging in the newly acquired positions, and that's essentially what's going on there. There is this never-ending attacks against Marinka without really much success there. This is just quick look at the Avdiivka situation. This is shortly after the start of the attack. This is sort of new developments, and this is the more recent one. As I said before, this area is actually captured right now by Russian troops. So otherwise, there's not much going on here. Now let's move to the Zaporizhya front line. Things here are quiet from both sides, so it's kind of like turning back into sort of sleepy section of the front line, similar how it used to be before, say what before, let's say May of this year. Now let's move to situation along the Dnipro River. Things here are more or less the same. Actually, I made a little mistake. There's no really meaningful Russian attacks here. All it is just exchange of artillery fire, and Russia is actually using these gliding bombs, which obviously not going to solve the problem. But the Russian command can put check mark. We are attacking Ukrainian troops in attempting to destroy the bridgehead. But basically, situation on the bridgehead is effectively not changed from really long time. So Ukrainian troops have this control over the village Krinky, and essentially they cannot. They tried to get into the forest, but they were pushed back so far. So they hold on just to the village at this point. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye bye.